The conflict that military historians would later call the Kellis Incident entered its final phase in the 11th month. Admiral Korath had lost over 200 soldiers to exhaustion, exposure, accidents, and the quiet terror that came from being hunted by something that never tired. The humans had grown stronger. The Valkyrie had grown weaker. The 3 survivors from the crashed survey ship were no longer alone. Their 6 Valkyrie prisoners had been transformed by months of forced marching into something new, creatures that had somehow learned to push past the limits of their own biology. And the humans had accumulated enough salvaged equipment to build a communication device powerful enough to reach passing ships. When a human merchant vessel detected their signal, the response was immediate. Within 2 weeks, a small fleet of human military ships arrived at the edge of the Kellis system. They did not attack. They simply waited, their weapons powered down, their shields inactive. A single message was transmitted to the Valkyrie command station. "We are here for our people. Return them, and we leave in peace. Keep them, and we stay." Admiral Korath understood the threat beneath those simple words. The humans would not fight a quick battle. They would not seek a decisive victory. They would do what they had been doing for 11 months. They would follow. They would persist. They would wear down the Valkyrie forces until there was nothing left. The council debated for 3 days before agreeing to negotiate. The ceasefire ceremony was held on neutral ground, a small space station at the edge of the system. Admiral Korath represented the Valkyrie Empire. The humans sent survey specialist Chun, the woman who had led the 3 survivors through 11 months of impossible pursuit. Korath studied her carefully as she entered the conference room. She was thin, her face marked by months of hardship and exposure to the elements. Her clothes were a patchwork of human fabrics and Valkyrie materials, sewn together with rough stitches. She walked with a slight limp from an injury that had never fully healed, but her eyes were clear and steady, and her body seemed incapable of standing still. Even as she took her seat at the negotiating table, her feet shifted slightly. Her fingers tapped against her leg. Her head turned to scan the room. She was constantly moving, constantly alert, constantly ready. The negotiations were brief. The Valkyrie agreed to release any claim on the crashed survey ship and its crew. The humans agreed to leave Valkyrie space without further conflict. Both sides agreed to establish a communication channel for future diplomatic contact. As the formal ceremony concluded, Korath found himself walking beside Chun toward the shuttle bay. He had one question that he needed to ask, even though he suspected he already knew the answer. "I must understand," he said through his translator. "Your species is not superior to ours in any measurement we can identify. You are not faster. You are not stronger. You do not have better weapons or armor or senses. How did 3 of you defeat an army?" Chun stopped walking and turned to face him. She was shorter than most of the Valkyrie around her, her body seemingly fragile compared to their armored forms. But there was something in her expression that made Korath want to step back. "Do you know where my species comes from, Admiral?" Korath nodded. "A small planet in an unremarkable system. We have studied your world. Then you know that our planet tried to kill us. Everything on that rock was designed to make us suffer. The weather changed without warning. The predators were faster and stronger than us. The plants were poisonous. The water was contaminated. The diseases were constant. We had nothing going for us. Nothing except one thing." She smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "We refused to die. We looked at all the things that wanted to kill us, and we decided that we would simply keep going until we won. That is what we do. That is what we have always done. You can run from a human. You can hide from a human. But eventually, you have to stop. And when you do," she shrugged, a gesture that somehow contained 11 months of walking, of suffering, of refusing to give up. We will still be coming." Korath said nothing. There was nothing to say. Chun boarded her shuttle and left the station. Within hours, the human fleet departed the system, carrying the 3 survivors and their 6 Velkari prisoners back to human space. Korath watched them go, thinking about everything he had learned. In the weeks that followed, the Conclave of Strategic Intelligence prepared a comprehensive report on the Kellis incident. They analyzed every aspect of the conflict, from the initial crash to the final negotiation. They interviewed survivors, studied medical data, reviewed tactical records. The final conclusion was simple and terrifying. Humans were not the most advanced species in the galaxy. They were not the most powerful or the most intelligent. They did not have the best technology or the strongest military, but they possessed something that the Velkari had never considered a weapon. They did not stop. No matter how long the pursuit lasted, no matter how difficult the conditions became, no matter how overwhelming the odds seemed, humans simply refused to give up. They would walk through deserts and canyons and frozen wastelands. They would suffer injury and exhaustion and deprivation. They would watch their companions fall and keep going. They would face entire armies with nothing but their own stubborn will. And eventually, they would win. Not through superior strength, but through the simple mathematics of endurance. Humans could sustain effort that no other species could match. In any conflict that lasted more than a few days, they held an advantage that could not be overcome. The report recommended reclassifying humanity from minor territorial concern to strategic threat. Attrition class. A new section was added to the military guidelines, warning all commanders about the dangers of prolonged engagement with human forces. The official recommendation was never formally adopted, but it was widely circulated among officers throughout the fleet. Do not start prolonged conflicts with humans. They will not stop. They cannot be exhausted. They will walk through fire and ice and vacuum itself if given sufficient motivation. Make peace quickly or do not make war. Admiral Korath kept a copy of the report in his personal files. Sometimes late at night, he would read through it again, remembering the 3 small figures walking across the desert, never stopping, never resting, always coming. He had learned something important on Kellis 4. He had learned that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was not the one with the biggest weapons or the fastest ships. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who simply refused to quit. Humans were that enemy, and the galaxy would have to learn to live with them, one way or another. The Great Hall of the Galactic Conclave had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, and not one of them spoke. They simply stared at the holographic display floating above the central platform, watching their doom approach. The Devour Swarm had consumed another star system. The display showed the before and after images. Before, 3 inhabited worlds, stations orbiting gas giants, mining operations on asteroid belts. After, nothing but empty space and the dark mass of the swarm moving to its next target. Elder Catherine of the Kethari stood and raised all 4 of his arms. His species had been spacefaring for 12,000 years. They had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but they had never seen anything like the Devourer. "We must attempt the summoning," Kythron said. His voice carried the weight of divine authority. The Cathari were blessed by the old gods, capable of manipulating reality itself through prayer and ritual. "It is our last hope." Some representatives nodded. Others looked doubtful. The Vryn delegate, Ambassador Dex, leaned forward in her seat. The Vryn were practical beings who used magic primarily for industrial purposes. They had less faith in the dramatic solutions than most. "The summoning has not been attempted in 2,000 years," Dex said. "And the last time, it failed. Because we summoned from a species too similar to ourselves," Kythron replied. "This time will be different. We have found a world unlike any other." He gestured, and the holographic display changed. A blue and green planet appeared, rotating slowly. Data scrolled past in several languages. "We discovered this world 6 cycles ago," Catherine continued. "Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth. They are a young species, barely reaching beyond their own moon. But here is what makes them unique." The data highlighted several key points. Dex read them with growing confusion. "No divine signatures detected," she said. "No magical ley lines? No ancestral spirit connections? Elder Catherine, how do they survive? Their world is classified as a death world. Extreme gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators. Without divine protection or magical enhancement, they should have gone extinct. And yet they thrive," Catherine said. "Billions of them. They have built cities, developed technology, and are beginning to explore their star system. All without any help from gods or magic. Then, what use are they to us?" Another delegate asked. Catherine's eyes glowed with divine light. "That is what we will discover. Prepare the summoning circle." The ritual took 3 days. Priests from a dozen different species gathered in the Chamber of Calling, each adding their own divine power to the spell. They chanted in languages older than most stars. They drew symbols that bent space and time. And when the ritual reached its peak, 3 figures materialized in the center of the circle. The humans looked around with wide eyes. 2 women and 1 man, all wearing strange clothing. The taller woman had dark hair pulled back tightly. She wore a uniform of some kind. The man was broad-shouldered with dark skin and carried a small device in his hands. The other woman was shorter, with tools hanging from her belt. Catherine expected fear. He expected awe. He expected reverence in the face of beings who could pull them across the galaxy in an instant. Instead, the tall woman stepped forward and said, "What the hell just happened?" The translator spell worked instantly, converting her words into something the conclave could understand. Catherine composed himself and spread his 4 arms in a gesture of welcome. "Greetings, humans. I am Elder Catherine of the Cathari. You have been summoned to the Galactic Conclave to serve as champions against an existential threat to all sentient life. You have been chosen because—" "Hold on," the woman interrupted. "Summoned? You mean you kidnapped us?" I was in the middle of a briefing. "I'm Commander Sarah Chun, United Earth Space Command. I need to contact my superiors immediately." Catherine blinked all 6 of his eyes. This was not how summonings typically went. "Commander Chun," he said patiently, "you do not understand. The fate of the galaxy is at stake. The Devourer Swarm is the what?" The man interrupted. He was tapping on his device rapidly. "I'm Dr. James Okafor. This device isn't getting any signal. Where exactly are we?" "You are at the center of the galaxy," Catherine said. "Approximately 27,000 light years from your homeworld. Now, if you would allow me to explain, 27,000 light years," the shorter woman said. She pulled one of the tools from her belt and examined it. The energy expenditure for that kind of transportation would be, well, it should be impossible. "I'm Maria Gonzalez, by the way, engineer. How did you do that?" "Magic," Catherine said simply. The 3 humans stared at him. Then they looked at each other. Then back at Catherine. "Magic," Chun said flatly. "Yes, the Cathari have divine patrons who grant us the ability to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. All advanced species in this galaxy have similar capabilities, though they may call it by different names. Ancestral powers, cosmic manipulation, reality weaving. But the principle is the same." Okafor held up his device. "This is reading some very unusual energy signatures. But magic? That's not. There has to be a scientific explanation." There is, Catherine said. The explanation is that the divine exists, and we have learned to work with it. Now, please, time is critical. The Devourer swarm has consumed 43 star systems in the past year. Every world it touches is stripped of all biological matter. The swarm then grows stronger and moves to the next system. We have tried everything. Military force, magical bombardment, divine intervention. Nothing stops it. The swarm adapts to every weapon we use. Chun's expression became serious. Show me the tactical data. Tactical data? Battle recordings. Engagement reports. Composition analysis of this swarm. Whatever intelligence you have on it. Catherine gestured, and holographic displays appeared around them, showing various encounters with the Devourer. The humans watched in silence as world after world fell. How long until it reaches populated sectors? Chun asked. 8 weeks, Catherine replied, which is why you must begin your training immediately. You will need to bond with divine patrons, learn the sacred magics, and undergo the trials of 8 weeks, Chun said. And how long does this training take? For basic competence? 6 months. To become true champions? Years. That's not going to work, Gonzalez said. Chiron felt his divine patience beginning to fray. I understand this is difficult to accept, but the path of the champion is the only way. It has been foretold by seers across multiple species. 3 champions from a new world will... We need data, Okafor interrupted. He was examining the holographic displays with intense focus. Detailed scans of Devourer biology. Spectral analysis of their energy signatures. Resource consumption patterns. Travel speeds and acceleration capabilities. Why would you need such information? Catherine asked. Because if we're going to fight this thing, we need to understand it, Chun said. Not through prophecy or magic. Through analysis and tactics. You refuse the divine path? Catherine could not hide his shock. We don't have time for 6 months of training, Chun said. You said 8 weeks. That means we have 8 weeks to find a solution that works. A solution that works, Catherine repeated. You are primitives from a world with no divine connection. You have no magic, no cosmic power, no ancestral blessing. What could you possibly do that 47 advanced species have not already tried? Chun looked at him steadily. We'll figure something out. We always do. Now, are you going to give us that data, or are we wasting time? The conclave chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates were outraged at the humans' arrogance. Others were curious. Ambassador Thex of the Vryn stood and raised her hand for silence. I propose we give them what they ask for, she said. We have 8 weeks until the swarm reaches the Outer Rim colonies. If the humans believe they can help, let them try. What do we have to lose? Catherine wanted to argue. The prophecies were clear. The divine path was the only way. But he looked at the holographic display showing the approaching swarm, and he made a decision. Very well, he said. You will have access to all our intelligence. But humans understand this. When your methods fail, and they will fail, we will not have time to return to the proper path. You may doom us all. Commander Chun smiled grimly. Then we'd better not fail. The galaxy will be fine, Chun said. You've learned what you need to know. The Institute will continue without us. And honestly, you don't need humans specifically. You just need to remember that you can solve your own problems if you stop waiting for someone else to do it for you. Catherine approached them, his divine aura flickering softly. I have a confession to make, Commander Chun. When you first arrived, I hoped you would fail. I wanted to prove that the divine path was superior. I know, Chun said. You do not seem angry about that. Why would I be? You believed what you believed. Everyone does. But beliefs don't matter much when you're facing extinction. Results matter. That's all we ever tried to tell you. You have taught us much, Catherine said. Not just methods and techniques, but a philosophy. The idea that we are not bound by fate or destiny, that we can analyze, adapt, and overcome. It is a powerful concept. It's just reality, Chun said. Earth didn't have gods to teach us. We had to figure everything out ourselves. That's made humans very good at problem solving, but it doesn't make us special. Any species could do what we do if they stop assuming someone else will fix their problems. The gathering continued late into the night. There were speeches, toasts, and even some tears. The humans had only been in the galaxy for 2 years, but they had left a mark that would last for generations. The next morning, Commander Chun, Dr. Okafor, and Maria Gonzalez boarded their ship. The entire conclave watched as the vessel powered up, its engines glowing with energy that came from physics and engineering rather than magic or divine blessing. "Ready?" Chun asked from the captain's chair. "Ready," Okafor confirmed from navigation. "Let's go home," Gonzalez said. The ship accelerated smoothly, heading out of the galactic core toward the outer rim where Earth waited. As they left, Chun looked back at the massive station where the conclave met. "Think they'll be okay?" Okafor asked. "They'll figure it out," Chun said. "They're smart, they're resourceful, and now they know they don't need to wait for divine intervention. That's all anyone really needs." "We changed the galaxy," Gonzalez said quietly. "No," Chun corrected. "We showed them how to change themselves. There's a difference." The ship jumped to faster than light travel, and the galactic core disappeared behind them. Ahead lay Earth, home, and whatever challenges waited there. But that was fine. Humans were good at challenges. Earth had no gods, no magic, only results. And in the end, results were all that mattered.